4, 3, 2, 1.
Insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stayed at his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is reelected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late.
Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, the phone number is area code 914-803-4131. That is 914-803-4131. You can also join us in the chat rooms over at liberaldanradio.com or on twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. LiberalDanRadio.com is the YouTube channel if you happen to be listening live on Blog Talk Radio. First of all, I'm surprised because last time I tried to access Blog Talk Radio, it was just not up at all. Not just a simple failure to connect, but it's also a simple, it was just not up. And, well, I guess they got it working again, so that's good. So, got a whole bunch of people in the chat already. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining on Alarasia, Nick, Aaron, one half of the mod squad, Dakota Dave, Fancy, Robin, Steve from across the pond. Hello, Steve. I think that's all we got right now who at least have chatted. Again, please remember to smash that like button and then subscribe if you've not already subscribed to the channel. Make sure to comment and like and share other videos on the channel to make sure the algorithms go up, because Al Gore needs more rhythm, and we need to make sure that we can keep the progress that we've have done on the show. I did say I was going to start the call late if the White Dudes for Harris chat or Zoom call or whatever it is wasn't finished. But I mean, look, I've heard most of everything that all of these people were saying. I don't need to be convinced to vote for Vice President Harris. I did make my contribution. I did donate, I think 25 the other day, but I also donated 50 live during the stream. The stream's almost already at $3 million of funds raised for White Dudes, for the White Dudes for Harris cause. If you want to pop on over to there and click the button. I don't know if the YouTube donation button is working, but I won't be mad if you hop over to their stream, make a contribution, and then come right back here. I guess I think you can only make a contribution if you're living as an American, if you're an American citizen. So if you're not an American citizen, you can't make the contribution. But well, as Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So we got that going. They currently have, what's his face? The voice of Olaf from Frozen. He's currently speaking. I have it on mute right now, so I'm not watching it. or I'm not listening to it, but I'm still kind of watching it to help the stream, help the views going on. 61,000 people are watching it, but only 12,000 likes, so I guess we all know how that goes, right? So, again, come on.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So, got a whole bunch of stuff I guess we could talk about today. I'm still having the little bit of a leftover cough, so I'm still going to be drinking my water during the show and making sure that, if the voice starts getting a little rough or the cough starts getting a little higher, I'll probably end the show earlier than I normally would, but, I have to make sure to put some time in because, again, as a reminder, next week, there will be no streams. I might post some things if I can, but I will be in Florida next week. So no show next week, but I do have a best of Liberal Dan Radio playlist that you can watch. So if you miss me and you want to watch some more Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left, that's right, you can always watch those videos. It's some of my favorites. There's some other ones that are in there. There's some longer ones. There's some shorter ones. Feel free to, just watch at your leisure. Of course, you could watch that anytime you want, or any of the other channels as well. Again, to support the show, if you have Amazon Prime, you could subscribe to the Twitch channel for free. Doesn't cost you anything. Otherwise, you can do what Aaron has done for the last 7 months and subscribe to the subscribe normally that way. Appreciate you, Aaron, for, as you noticed at the top of the show, the subscription had resubscribed at 7 months at Tier 1. So thank you again, Aaron, for supporting the show, or all you do for the show. Appreciate you. And thanks, everybody, for all the patrons, as well as all of the people who are Liberal Danimals over on YouTube, either via, you purchase it yourself or you purchased ones for others. I appreciate that as well. There's also bits that you can use on Twitch, or super chats, super stickers. You can buy me a cider. liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or you can go to Venmo and Venmo me as well. Just if you're going to do a singular one-time contribution and don't want your name on there, just do it as friends and family, because you're not buying anything from the channel via that. So lots of, again, additional stuff to talk about over the course of the day. Of course, remember, if you want to, one of the ways you can also cheer is if you use bits, you can do that. I bit myself. It didn't hurt too bad though. You can also do that, and it'll get a notification up on the screen as well. See what else. We got Jeff going on. What's up going on, Jeff? I don't know if I saw you previously or not, but hey, Jeff, good to see you. And Janelle, thank you for coming as well. Again, Patreon as well, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. Try to make it easier to get there both ways. So, I'm just kind of wanting to keep my eyes open on the White Dudes for Harris ticker here, because you have they're at $2.99 million donated over the last hour. So they're gonna crack 3, and I'm wondering how much they're gonna crack by the end of the day. That would be pretty amazing if they could get like 5, 6, 10. We will see how much is raised via this, but there's just a stream of just information just going across, like, this person donated, you get a donation. So it's awesome that everybody seems to be going all in with this, and with the support for Vice President Harris. Of course, one of the things that I and everybody else should be giving people grief for is the people who can't pronounce her name right. To me, if you can't say Kamala instead of Kamala, maybe just refer to her as Vice President Harris at that point, because I'm gonna just keep mocking people who do. Now I'll give you once. I'll give people once especially if they're wrestling fans from like the late 80s, early 90s, because there was a wrestler who was called Kamala, or I'm sorry, I'm even pronouncing the wrestler's name wrong. The wrestler's name was Kamala. So if you used to watch wrestling and you are aware of the wrestler Kamala that you got in Headhunter, who I think was a car salesman in his spare time more previously from Louisiana. I'm pretty sure. I could be a little bit wrong about that, but that's, whatever. But his name was Kamala. Her name is Kamala. And very easy. Just say comma and then la. Then put it together. Kamala. Very easy to say. You could say her name very simply, but for some reason if you can't seem to get it, you can simply just say Vice President Harris and let that be the end of it. So, Jeff, how much did they crack? Let's see. What are they at now? They already hit. As I was making my rant about how to pronounce the vice president's name correctly, they did top the 3 million mark over on their stream. So I'm just gonna. It'll be nice to see how many of these people can get together. I mean, because you had black men, you had a black man Zoom, you had a black woman Zoom, you had a white woman Zoom, and now you have the white dudes bringing up the rear. So, but if we can get white guys to turn out, especially in swing states, one of the key points that they made during that stream is if you can get white dudes to get out and vote, 1-2% higher than you normally would, especially in the states that matter, in swing states, in states like North Carolina, in states maybe need a little more higher percentage in Florida, in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, we can make sure that Donald Trump does not get back into office and that we elect Vice President Harris to be our next president of the United States. So, MJ, I know exactly why they mispronounce her name like this, and they do it on purpose, not by accident. They know what they're doing. Of course they do. But I'm going to continue to say that they're incapable of doing it because I'm going to keep insulting them for doing it. And to me, that's the best way of telling them that they're doing it wrong, is by just assuming that they are incapable of doing it, that they lack the mental acuity or the brain power to say Kamala. It's very simple. Of course, these are the people who won't respect other people's pronouns either. But they'll call J.D. Vance, and they'll dead name people, but they'll have no problem calling J.D. Vance J.D. Vance, even though J.D. Vance is his chosen name. It wasn't his birth name. So, and Aaron is also correct. We should also use her last name just as we use men's last name. Respect, exactly. Which is why there was some people posting it as hashtag white dudes for Kamala, and I was like, no, white dudes for Harris, and that was, and they've made that the link is whitedudesforharris.com as well. If you go to that link, you can do that as well. But
90 seconds.
Why 90 seconds? I did not set the show up for only 15 minutes. Silly Blog Talk Radio. There we go. Now we're at 180. 180 minutes, even though we won't go all 3 hours. MJ, very possible this bunch is not very bright. No, they're not. But even the ones that are doing it's purposefully to be cruel, purposefully to be racist, whatever they're doing, I'm just going to continue to say that they're doing it because they're incapable of doing it. And if you're incapable of saying Kamala Harris when you're referring to the vice president, just say Vice President Harris, and it'll save you a little bit more of embarrassment. If that's an emotion that they even have, that they're even capable of, they might not even be capable of the emotion of embarrassment, because honestly they don't care about anything. So, but yeah, I've been making it a point. I mean, ever since 2016, when we referred to Clinton as the nominee instead of Hillary. It's very, very clear that people would refer to people as not as Hillary, but as not as Clinton, but as Hillary, but then would still say Trump. Talk about people by their last names consistently if that's what you're going to do. I mean, I know there are people who supported Bernie Sanders and would want to vote for Bernie and whatever, but that's not an example of sexism as it tends to be when it comes to referring to women candidates by their first names and male candidates by their last names. So, Easy Network, remind me why we asked the law-abiding president to step down from running and not the 34-time convicted felon. I mean, I've been, Donald Trump would never do anything for the good of anybody else other than himself. So asking Donald Trump to do something that would be for the benefit of society is a lost cause. I didn't like the fact that Biden was pressured to step down from the race. I don't agree with it. However, as as the other guy says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Although I will say thank you, Donald, in response to this instead of thank you, Trump, because I don't respect Donald Trump. JD equals just dumb. Hilarious. That's pretty good. What's up, Jane Morgan? Hey, Jolie, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Wow, they're almost at $3.1 million now. That's pretty amazing that what they're doing over there. But we're gonna do something that we have not done in a while. A bit that I haven't done in a pretty long bit. Get it? Haha. Bit. I haven't done this in a while. But we are going to do headlines in a second because I hadn't done headlines in a while, and well, I want to get back into doing it. It just requires a little extra show prep. So, without further ado, and now for this week's headlines. In a speech to conservative Christians at Turning Point USA, Donald Trump said that they should just vote one more time and they'll never have to vote again. The conservatives are really starting to say the quiet parts out loud. So much for him only being a dictator on day one. It turns out that the person who murdered Sonia Massey was also apparently booted from the army because of a DUI. I guess the 6 different police departments that he worked for should have checked that out first, right? And again, as we're going, the White Dudes for Harris has just topped $3.1 million. So that's a lot of support coming from the white dudes, something that is necessary if we're going to win the election. We need everybody, all hands on deck, to defeat Donald Trump. But finally, J.D. Vance has been getting a lot of coverage of him and his relationship to both dolphins and couches. I just want to remind everybody that means no. His posting of an image of a woman getting violated by a dolphin, including showing his search results, seems rather fishy to me. Donald Trump and the GOP love for Russia has caused people to start calling J.D. Vance Vladimir Futon. And of all the kinds of couches, as we discussed last week, I'm wondering if the pull-out couch is Vance's most or least favorite form of couch. I'm also led to question whether or not J.D. Vance's favorite part of history is the Ottoman Empire. Now, why did J.D. Vance accept Donald Trump's invitation to be his running mate? Well, I think he might have heard that Fred Trump once called Donald Trump a lazy boy. And finally, J.D. Vance has been critical of childless cat ladies, but he didn't want to be critical of people with dogs. Why is that? Well, he probably feared that he might anger people with Barca loungers. And that... Hold on. And that was this week's headlines. Of course, while we joke and have fun at J.D. Vance's expense, it is also vital to remember that J.D. Vance also believes that when people adopt kids, they're not parents, that women should be required to stay in abusive marriages for the children, that he supports a federal role in stopping people from seeking abortions across state lines, despite him previously saying that it should be a state issue, and despite calling Trump America's Hitler, that didn't stop him from happily joining the campaign. So many of those things need to be remembered. While we joke, and we may have fun with joking around at J.D. Vance's expense, and there's plenty of stuff to joke about when it comes to J.D. Vance. We also need to remember that there's lots of serious issues that we're facing in this upcoming election, and that includes all of the horrible things that J.D. Vance supports, because if Trump is elected and becomes dictator on day one, technically still, if something were to happen, J.D. Vance would be elevated to the office of president, and it's absolutely vital that that not happen either. So there you go. All right. So, my MJ Daniel, I don't think that's what people meant by couch surfing. I saw one meme earlier where it was that J.D. Vance would purposely get into arguments with his own wife so that he could sleep on the couch, or is it on the couch or with the couch? I don't know. But I guess telling J.D. Vance to go sleep on the couch tonight isn't necessarily the worst thing that you could do for good old J.D., huh? So let's go through some of the comments as well. Mr. Spock, nice to see you. I'll take that pass in a second. What's up, Benny Loco? Good to see you. Jeff Curry, I thought he said dictator other than day one. No, he said that he wanted to be dictator on day one, and so he'd do things like build the wall and drill baby drill, but nobody who wants to be a dictator on one day will ever want to give up the power any other day. See, Robin, city people, neighborhood peeps always call out the last name, especially when lots of people on the street. True, but you know, you have a bunch of people, bunch of the folks who are Trump supporters or come from the small red states and rural areas, and they're not gonna, they're gonna call her by the incorrect first name. So Chad Bostic, man, if there was a white dude meaning for Trump and they called it that, the boys would be getting visited by the... That's not true at all, Chad. It's not true at all that a white dude's for Trump. I mean, you don't need to spell out white dudes for Trump. It was called the RNC, the Republican National Convention. It was, all you had to do was look. There was plenty of white dudes for Trump right then and there. They don't need to call it that. That's just what it is. Tim, take my couch's name out your mouth. Hilarious. Yeah, Vance is homosexual. I don't know. I think he likes all sorts of sectional. I think he would be heterosexual, or maybe he's bisexual. You never know. See, Army does not throw you out for no reason. Dishonorable discharge for DUI is bad. Means the cop probably did something really bad when he got the DUI. I'm sure he did, but the 6 law enforcement agencies that he worked for, 5 before working for the one he most recently got fired for, should have probably checked that out. And you probably don't want somebody with a DUI working in a job where you need to drive vehicles. Dakota Dave, stop. No, I'm not going to stop. I'll make the nice pun. Surrender Monkey, thank you so much for the 10 there, to 10 spot. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Anybody else, you're more than welcome to do the super chat as well. So I enjoy bribing people for the right reasons. That's hilarious. Daily News. What's going on? Good to see you. One of our conservative followers here. What you say, small town is only for President Teflon Trump. Well, a lot of Trump's support comes from rural areas. We have a lot of states with lots of rural areas that have unnecessary and uncalled for power when it comes to the Electoral College, and that's how Trump is able to keep this close as it shouldn't be, because of the horrible way that we designed the Electoral College and the horrible way that we've allowed Congress to grow and not have states even have their correct representation as it refers to the House, with Wyoming has more power than it should in the House, let alone in the overall in the Electoral College. So there's all that. So again, just taking a more sips of water because I need to make sure to keep my whistle wet, so to speak, to make sure I don't get too coughy or too hoarse over the course of the show, because I'm still fighting a cough that's lingering, because that's always what happens to me whenever I'm doing a show. But let's see. This bumpkin comes from the county in the United States, or country? What are you talking about? Comes from the county? Comes from rural? What? Robin M., what are your thoughts of keeping the Electoral College? The Electoral College, I mean, it needs to go, but it's unlikely to go because it's in the Constitution, and as such, it would require a constitutional amendment, just like it's unlikely that Biden is going to get his constitutional amendment to third term limits on Supreme Court justices. However, the fact that Biden is doing it now it shows that he's just making it an issue for the upcoming election. Of course, Lindsey Graham is like, again, saying the quiet things out loud, because Graham was basically saying that, by doing these reforms, by requiring, by putting in term limits, by requiring that they don't stay there for life, and by requiring that Supreme Court justices have things like, an ethics policy, that will just promote more liberal Supreme Court justices. I mean, are you saying that conservative Supreme Court justices are unethical, Mr. Graham? Sounds like it. At least that sounds like it to me. You come from the biggest county in the United States. Okay. See, I feel like the Electoral College is says Chad, I feel like the Electoral College is one of the few ways the little guy living outside the big city gets their voice heard as well. I'm sure it can be more fine-tuned, but I think we need it. That is not true. We've discussed this on the show several times already. The Electoral College only gives people a say from the states that matter in elections. So currently there's 7 states that might be relevant, maybe 8, no more than 10. You have Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, North Carolina. Did I say Pennsylvania? I don't know if I might have said Pennsylvania twice. Florida. I don't know if I said Georgia. Let's start again. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, potentially, now that abortion's on the ballot there. At least 8 states that matter. If you live outside of any of those states, your voice doesn't get heard. They're not going to go. Donald Trump, when he ran in 2016, he didn't visit any of the red states, all that are the so-called flyover states. He didn't visit those states because he knew that he has those states in the bag already. But if you eliminated the Electoral College and enabled people to vote as a country, then every vote matters, instead of just, the votes of the states that are swing states. So if you want to keep it so that only swing states have a say in who gets picked as president, then guess what? Keep the Electoral College. But if you want everybody's vote to matter, dump the Electoral College. And again, the flyover state argument is full of BS, because, again, these candidates are not going to these states that they already know that they're going to win, unless, for example, they think there's money to be raised there. That's the only reason they're going to go. They're not going to Wyoming. They're not going to the Dakotas. They're not going to Kansas. They're not going to Nebraska. They're not going to any of these states. Why? Because they're already in the bag. There's no reason for them to show up. So Republicans in blue states who might not show up in an election because those safe blue states are going to go for whomever, maybe they might come out to vote. You might get more Republicans coming out, but then again, you might get more Democrats coming out to vote in those other states that don't currently matter in the Electoral College, because we've already assumed who those votes are going to. So, Easy Network, the Electoral College is meant to give states with more cattle than people a voice. It should be for equalizing the Senate only, but even then, states like Florida, Texas, California, Illinois should probably get more senators. I don't know if how many people should get more senators. I mean, that was the compromise that they did back when they formed the country to make sure that the states of differing population sizes would have some sort of say to block extreme legislation that could potentially, harm them, I guess, or benefit the other states more. And then the states like Virginia, that was a slave state, you had, because of the 3/5 compromise, you got to count 3/5 of the black population in that state. However, those black people didn't get a vote; they just got counted as population for representation purposes, which is ridiculous, of course. But again, the difference in severity between the population of like Rhode Island or Delaware versus Virginia, even back then, even with the fact that those two were small states, Virginia was a big state, the difference in population after you do the 3/5 compromise math was only about 11 times. So Virginia had about 11 times the population of either Rhode Island or Delaware. Now you have Wyoming and you have California, and California's has 68 times more population than Wyoming, but only has 55 more seats in the House. So California should have at least 12 or 13 more seats in it because of its population compared to the smallest state population. So we don't even apportion the seats in the House properly. If we did that, when I last did this calculation, and maybe maybe we need to do it again. When I last did this calculation, if we were to look at how many Wyoming's worth of population each state has, rounding to the nearest Wyoming worth of population, you would have about 100 more seats in the House. You would increase, certain states would gain more. Other states, I mean, if you're Wyoming, you're going to stay the same because you're the lowest population state, so you're going to get the default of 1. But I don't even think if you want to, people always want to talk about what the founding fathers said or whatever. You don't have a situation where, I don't think the founding fathers could have even fathomed the idea. Thank you for gifting that subscription, that membership there, Nick Rich. And it went to Surrender Monkey. Thank you so much. Anyway, so I don't know if the founding fathers could have ever fathomed the idea of having such a difference in state populations between Wyoming and California, for example. I don't think they could have ever imagined such a thing. Maybe they could have, I don't know, but I would love to be able to pull, Thomas Jefferson on his deathbed or whatever. I don't know if that's the case. But I would love to be able to pull out one of the, founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson, pull him into the future, like right on his deathbeds, and then put him right back so nobody misses him. And then be like, and then so he doesn't change history. And then be like, hey, what would you think about having a country where we had, 300 million people in the country, and what do you think about the Senate if we told you that the Senate would have, instead of 11 times the population, or the states would have 11 times the population in Virginia versus like your Rhode Island? What if you had 65, 68 times more population? Do you think the Senate would be a good idea at that point? And I would like to think that they would say no, that maybe we need to rethink certain things. Like maybe we need to put a limit on how the size of states that can be. We should have never allowed certain states to become either separate states or whole. I don't know. The fact that we allowed these states to become states was a giveaway to conservatism, and it's terrible. California has as many people in single cities as Wyoming in their whole state. That's also true. What's up, Chucker John? Good to see you. Jim Jordan and Warren Davidson would probably have to fight harder to keep. Thanks, Benny, for the $3. Appreciate you. Let's see. Jim Jordan and Warren Davidson would have to fight harder for their seats if they had the correct number of reps in Ohio. Probably, but Ohio also has the other issue. Ohio gerrymanders terribly. Ohio is one of the states that is probably one of the worst gerrymandered ones, because, back when Ohio used to be a swing state, you had, I think 1 year Obama won Ohio. I think President Obama won Ohio 1 year. And you had what's his face, the senator from Ohio. He won the state, yet only 4 of 16 of the seats in Ohio were for Democrats because of how horribly they gerrymander in Ohio. Now Ohio, I think, only has 15 states, and they re-gerrymandered, so now only 3 of those. So in losing a seat, the Ohioan Republican legislator made sure that those seats, the seat that was lost was the Democratic Party seat. Hey, Benny, thank you also for gifting memberships. Appreciate you so much for that. Paulina, you need to be Kamala's VP, please. I mean, I wouldn't say no. I don't think I'd say no. I don't know if I'd be vetted properly. There might be too much in my past that would be like, hey, you might not want to pick me because of things. I don't know what. I do have an edible subscription with the state of Louisiana, so that could be enough to get me off the ballot. But, I appreciate you, Paulina. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if I'm the perfect one. There may very well be people. Another super sticker. Thank you, Benny. I don't know if there are other people. Paulina, you would get my vote. I'm not American. I don't know. There are probably more strategic picks than me, but I do appreciate the fact that you agree with the things that I say. So, the population in our county, we live in Olympia, Washington, is almost 300,000 by itself. Nearly half of Wyoming. Yeah, that's the problem. Dakota, maybe I just needed to gerrymander my couch. Hilarious. To Trump in the UK means to fart. So to put into context, if a child farts loudly, you would ask them, did you just Trump? Did that happen before or after Trump became president? That's the funny thing. 56 Nick Ridge, one person, one vote. What's hard about that concept? The concept is that the conservatives are not going to like it. They're not going to allow it. And they're going to fight it tooth and nail, because in order for, thank you, Robin, for gifting another membership. The problem with conservatism is that they need votes. They need your votes to be as white as possible and as old as possible. That's how Republicans win, by making sure that the electorate is as white as possible and as old as possible, which is one of the reasons why we need the white dudes for Harris thing, is because we need to make sure that the white people who are coming out to vote are the people who are going to be supporting Vice President Harris. And 3.2 million right now is the current total. 3.236. Chad, if Harris could get Manchin as her VP, she would steal some Trump votes and have a much better shot at beating Trump. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's true. I think that picking... hey, Trucker John, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Appreciate you. I don't believe that that Joe Manchin would help, and it could even hurt, because you're going to lose... I mean, look, I'm still going to vote. If she were to pick Manchin, I would still vote for her, because it's important what's most important, who's in the office of the presidency. I would not agree with the pick of picking him as a vice president. I don't think that helps get votes out. I don't think that would help steal anybody away from the Trump campaign, because you're still voting for Vice President Harris. And so the MAGA supporters are going to be like, you know what? We're MAGA supporters. We're voting for Trump. There's nothing you can do to steal away from stealing the Trump folks away, and you're not going to do it. You're not going to do that with the ticket. What you need is people to pull out the independents, to get out the independents, the non-registered folks, the centrists, the people who are not really MAGA folks, but maybe they were Nikki Haley supporters who might need a little bit of, shoving to get them out to vote against Trump and for Harris. So, Manchin would be bad for the non-big pharma vote. Yeah. Manchin I don't even know why Manchin is a Democrat. We've covered that on the show too. He's clearly showed himself that he doesn't agree with any of the policies of the Democratic Party. I don't know why I think he's an independent now anyway. I think he re-registered as an independent. So, Manchin would be a terrible pick, too old. There's something to be said about somebody older, because that's what, Bush did with Cheney. Not that Cheney's a great example, but there's also something to be said about picking somebody younger, because maybe that'll get even more of the youth vote out. That's what, you have advisors for a reason. And of course, the Republicans, the MAGA folks, are always, picking on Biden and or will pick on President Harris when she gets elected, for having advisors and listening to advisors, because their guy, Trump, doesn't like advisors. And they're going to mock, you need an advisor? That's the advisors that are running the country. No. If you have an advisor, it's because you're picking an expert in a field, hopefully, to give you information about topics that you might not personally be educated about. I like to think that, Biden and Vice President Harris are two people who are intelligent and well-informed on a lot of issues, but I don't expect them to be, well-informed on all the issues, and that's why you get advisors to give you advice on issues that you might not be aware about. I would gladly, if I was in that position, take the advice of experts. But I guess that's the different thing between liberals and conservatives, as we saw during the pandemic, is that many conservatives reject the advice of experts, because experts will tell you, we need to do this, and then Donald Trump comes along when it comes to COVID and be like, oh, well, maybe we should put disinfectant in the body. Is there a way to do that? Because disinfectants will kill the virus on surfaces, so why can't we put disinfectants in the body? Because it would kill people, first of all, dummy. But then again, he didn't mind having people die during his administration because of his bungling of COVID. We had hundreds of thousands of more deaths than we needed to, simply because he did not know how to handle the pandemic properly. So, see, MJ Daniel, Democrats have a solid short list. Manchin just needs to go away. Yeah, Manchin was briefly toying around with the idea of, I'm going to run now that Biden dropped out. And then he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, good, leave. See, corruption in West Virginia, talking about big coal, big pharma has harmed West Virginia greatly too. Oh, absolutely. I'm Evie Winters, who's been on the show a couple of times and is very outspoken about issues like trans issues, could probably tell you all about how big pharma and big coal has ruined West Virginia, because that's where she's initially from. I think she lives in Maryland now, but initially she's from West Virginia. And Gerald Moraine, coal is not, ever was, nor will be clean, especially when you chop the tops off of mountains and you dump all of the waste products into water, areas with fresh water. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problems with Project 2025, is like things like Project 2025 and Donald Trump both don't want regulations on industry, especially industries that poison our air, poison the water. It used to be that sometimes you would have, your wildlife, hunters and fishermen type folks could find common ground with your environmentalist left-wing folks as it pertained to, cleaning up things like our water and our air. For example, we had the Save the Lake Foundation here in Louisiana with Lake Pontchartrain, it's a huge lake, huge body of water. Lake Pontchartrain, the bridge over Lake Pontchartrain is the longest bridge in the world over a single body of water. So it's the second longest bridge in the world now, but it's first longest over a single body of water. But it used to stink. It used to be terrible. It used to be horribly polluted. And what happened? The environmentalist types and the hunters and fishermen, wildlife type people who would want to go out and, fish and hunt or whatever, they got together and formed this Save the Lake Foundation or whatever, and worked together to get good legislation passed that would help keep it clean so that, the wildlife wouldn't die en masse, whilst allowing people to still hunt and fish in those areas, specifically fish in the lake. But nowadays, I don't even know if that's possible, because we've managed to shove everybody into their own side. So I don't even know if you would be able to get environmentalists in America and hunters in America, fishermen, to be able to come together and work together on anything related to the environment. But you have Project 2025, you have, Donald Trump clearly, say, oh, we're going to get rid of all, 2 regulations for every one that we want to put in or whatever. But again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater is what they like to do, because they just think all regulations are bad. And they don't even say, okay, this is why this regulation is bad, and therefore we need to get rid of it. They're just going to say, hey, we got rid of so many regulations, aren't we great? And then all of a sudden you end up with, poisoned water in your backyard. Of course, you have people like the head of Nestle, who doesn't believe that water is a right, that people have a right to water. So West Virginia used to be a moderately blue state until Trump. It was blue with Byrd in office. West Virginia went from Dixiecrat to hard right, it seems. Well, I would argue that Dixiecrat was still hard right, because Dixiecrat still was racist. Chad Bostic, so what are some of the things that you are proud of with the job that Vice President Harris has done as that are not tied to Biden? That's kind of hard to point out, simply because most, if not everything, that Vice President Harris does as part of the Joe Biden administration will be tied inextricably to Joe Biden. So I think that's not the question to ask in reality. The question is, why is Vice President Harris more qualified, or the better choice to be president than the other major party candidate, Donald Trump? And there we could talk about her policy positions, her issues, her continuation of things that are happening in the Biden administration, like student loans, and all of the benefits that people who have student loans are receiving because of all of the fixes that the Biden administration has done since implementing those things. I would probably say that, I forget the exact date and time when my student loans went to out of forbearance and back into repayment or what have you. But even then, it's kind of been back and forth with forbearance, because they've been like, oh, we got to do this fix, whatever. So let's just say it's been a year or so since student loans have needed to be start to be repaid after we've come out of the pandemic, ignoring any of the administrative forbearance that I've gotten because of changes that they're doing and fixes that they're doing to all of the accounts. That's the case. The save plan saved me at least $250 a month. And if we're just saying, okay, we only made a year's worth of payments, 25 or $250 a month times 12 months is about $3,000. So as of right now, President Biden's policies on student aid have saved me a monthly amount that adds up to at least $3,000. That's $3,000 that I could use to pay off other debts. That's $3,000 that I could use that I use to buy food. That's $3,000 that I could use to pay for things for my kids, do fun things, etc. So that in and of itself is enough for me. But there's also the issues of the existential threat that Donald Trump places. What do you think, Chad? Chad, have you seen, this is specifically to Chad, have you seen the statement from Turning Point USA where Donald Trump said that And I posted it here on YouTube. So if you haven't seen it, it's here. I posted it on YouTube. Have you seen him saying that if the Christians come out and vote for him this once, they won't have to vote again? He's not saying they won't have to vote for me again. He's not saying they won't have to. He's saying they won't vote again. What does Donald Trump have in mind that would enable him to be able to say that? What are his plans? I mean, they're saying the quiet stuff out loud, but you can't support the idea that people aren't going to have to vote again. I mean, unless you're willing to happily accept Donald Trump as your dictator for life. Okay, you saw that, but what are your opinions of it, Chad? That's the thing I want to know. What do you think about that? That's not anything that a Democrat has or would ever say. And frankly, that's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. He meant that basically everything would be fixed so perfectly that you wouldn't have to vote for anyone. It's hyperbole. That's dangerous hyperbole. Because there are plenty of people who are MAGA supporters who have stated on record that they would happily accept dictator Trump. They'd be more than happy to eliminate anything, any of the protections that we have in this country in order to elect Trump because they worship Trump like he's a deity. I mean, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's own, you say calling Trump Hitler is dangerous. J.D. Vance, in the past, referred to Donald Trump as America's Hitler. So, his own vice presidential pick once said that he was America's Hitler. But no, there are things that I can point to that Donald Trump did during the 2016 campaign and has still done that are very close to Hitler's strategies. His using the term fake news, trying to paint the media as lying. Well, that is directly out of Adolf Hitler's playbook when it comes to what he would call the lying press or the Lügenpresse. He would literally do that. And the reason that people like Donald Trump and wannabe dictators do that sort of thing is because they want you to doubt anything the media ever says about them. So he starts off by saying, oh, that's just fake news. That's the lying press. The press lies about me all the time. So get the people to disbelieve anything that the fact checkers might say about you. So therefore, any fact checking that they do about you is not going to be believed by his hardcore supporters. So there's that. Donald Trump ran on a campaign in 2016 where he pledged to stop all Muslims from entering the country until we could figure out what was going on. That's scapegoating an entire religion. He scapegoated an entire religion to attract the bigots to his campaign. Well, who do we know that has ran for a position of political power who scapegoated an entire religion? That would be Adolf Hitler. That would be, he scapegoated the Jews. Trump scapegoating the Muslims. It's still scapegoating an entire religion for our problems. Again, that's dangerous. It's an awful thing to think about half the country. I don't know if it's half the country. It's Donald Trump didn't get half the vote in 2020. He got 7 million less votes, but even you add up the total amount of people who voted in that election, that's still not half the country. So you have like 80 million and 70 million or whatever. So you take those two combined, you add that up, that's about 150 some odd million. There's over 330 million people in this country, so not even half the country votes. The problem is that Republicans have done such a good job of gerrymandering. Not to say that Democrats don't, but Republicans have made it into an art form, and it's a terrible art form, but it's still an art form, and they've made it so that they can have minority rule. Republicans in Texas have done things like, even though I don't understand why they're complaining about all the people that are coming across the border, because the state of Texas, when they gerrymander people in districts, they take advantage of the non-citizen population by pushing them into districts to make sure that the districts have an equal amount of people, but they also make sure that, okay, so there's going to be 40% of the district will be Republican, and then 30% of the district might be Democrat, leaving another 30%, and then they put 30% of people in the district who are non-citizens, so therefore you get the full size of the district, and you keep the Republicans in control of that district, even though they only have 40% of the electorate. So yeah, half the country is underage as well. So there's a decent amount of people who just can't vote because of their age. And there are other people who can't vote because they're restricted from doing so because of, BS felonies or BS criminal convictions that they've been, prosecuted for. So Robin says Chad has a syntactic rigidity problem, and Chad thinks that's an insult. I don't think that's an insult. I think that's not insulting you. I think that's calling out a problem that she has with your arguments. That is attacking your argument and not you. So Easy Network Chad, we need universal ID free of charge for all legal voters, meaning legal citizens and non-felons. Even felons should get to. I don't think felons should have their voting rights stripped unless they did something with their felony that was election related. I mean, even the state of Florida, the people of the state of Florida voted to make it so that felons could have their voting rights restored once they came out of prison. And then the Republicans were like, well, we don't like that, so we're going to pass legislation that's going to alter what the citizens of their own state did to make sure that the only way they can get their voting rights restored is to pay off like fines and fees or whatever, which basically turns it into another poll tax. They're basically saying that felons need to pay a poll tax in order to vote. But a lot of times when conservatives will talk about voter ID laws, I'll be like, look, fine, let's do what Mexico does. Automatically issue everybody who is legally eligible to vote a ID that's given to them by the government. So therefore, everybody gets it. But no, because that's not the goal of so-called voter ID laws. So-called voter ID laws contain other provisions that have nothing to do with the requirement to show a voter ID to cast a ballot that make it so it's harder for people to cast ballots. It's a whole, the Republican Party wants the electorate to be as small and as white and old as possible. Small as in fewer voters, not small as in short of stature. But, and despite me saying that my problem with these so-called voter ID laws are the provisions that have nothing to do with the requirement to show an ID to vote, regardless of the fact that I said that I support that the idea that government should give out to every eligible voter an ID that they could use, so there's no excuse for them to not have an ID. There will be conservatives who say, what's your problem with showing a voter ID, when clearly my problem is with those other non-ID related provisions in these so-called voter ID laws. But then when you say, hey, we should be giving everybody, well, let's give everybody a ballot. Let's give everybody a ID so that they can show it at the polls and prove who they are. The conservatives balk at that. Many conservatives balk at that. Why? Because those people who balk at that understand that the purpose of these so-called voter ID laws are not to make it so that the people who vote are eligible. It's the other parts that are placed into these so-called voter ID laws that are to make sure that the electorate is as old and white as possible, to restrict people, to take away options on how they can vote, on what kind of IDs they can use, because that's one of their favorites to do. people who have been relying on certain IDs for years, and they're like, nope, now you can't use these anymore. Sorry, too bad for you. If you go look at the ruling for the North Carolina law, the so-called voter ID law in North Carolina, the provisions that had nothing to do with the showing of an ID to cast a ballot, with the exception of one, was tossed because the courts basically said that the legislature targeted black voters with surgical precision. They did studies to find out which ways black voters are more likely to vote versus which ways white voters are more likely to vote. And they took all of the ways that the black voters would use, like, early voting. They restricted early voting to a lesser amount of time, fewer days. They restricted other aspects of the voting procedure that black people utilize to make it so that the way that black people vote are more likely to vote are no longer available to them, making it less likely for them to be able to cast a ballot. So the other thing that was in the law that did have something to do with voter ID is that North Carolina was like, if you don't have a driver's license, they put a fee on getting a card that would be used just for voting. Well, if you have to pay money to get an ID that's going to be used for voting, that's a poll tax. That should be considered unconstitutional. Should be free. Should be a free ID card. In Louisiana, one of the reasons I don't raise any issues with the laws in Louisiana as it pertains to showing a voter ID is because in Louisiana, if you don't have a driver's license, you can get a free voter ID. And also the requirements of getting an ID in Louisiana are not as overly restrictive as some of these other people. You can use, I think, some, like maybe your birth certificate and 2 forms of utility bills to prove your residency or whatever. So Louisiana's laws about it are not that bad, but Louisiana passed its ID requirements years before this most recent push to start making these so-called voter ID laws. So Chad Bossick, Easy E, the overarching point I was trying to get to was that neither the left or right should be assuming things about roughly half of other Americans. We are missing the love. Well, I mean, I don't feel as if the MAGA conservative types are even capable of love. If you are dyed-in-the-wool MAGA, which I'm not saying you are, but if you're dyed-in-the-wool MAGA, like, could never be convinced to vote for anybody else, there are plenty of people there that are absolutely full of hatred. They're full of hatred, and there's no way that they would ever consider having any supportive support for people on the other side of the aisle. Whereas Democratic politicians are constantly reaching across the aisle to try and get stuff done. Alarasia, you're absolutely right about North Carolina. It's sickening. It is sickening. And what will be more sickening is if North Carolina decides to elect the Republican candidate for governor, because he's, of all the things we said last week when Aldo was in the chat and I had to school him or her, whoever Aldo is, on all of the various different horrible things he said or done that would make North Carolina a much more dangerous place for oppressed minorities to be in. But, even though he is a black candidate, he is somebody who is going to continuously push for horrible policies. And, Donald Trump, one of the reasons Donald Trump is so bad, to pile on the list of why Donald Trump is so bad, Donald Trump called Mark Robinson, basically, he said he's double Martin Luther King Jr. He's like 2 times MLK. No, not one bit. Mark Robinson is nowhere near the type of good person that Martin Luther King was. So, Easy E, MAGA is weird that way. They want their cake and eat it too. They think we should have to hate Dems and like Trump and like whatever Trump. I say we live God and even, or love God and even love people like Trump and still support Dems. But it's not really the MAGA type. Chad, I know some full-blown MAGA in my hometown and have full-blown liberal friends, and frankly, I don't enjoy being around either group. I hang around open-minded people. Yeah, are there closed-minded people on the left? Absolutely. But I don't think, I can't equate the numbers, because we don't fall in line and get behind people who want to be dictator on day one. We don't do that. We tend to fall in love with candidates and then shoot ourselves in the own foot because the candidate that is picked is not the perfect one, and we let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Let's scroll back a bit and see what else I've missed in chat for a second. Let's see, since Biden made his announcement and the Harris popularity in voter registration is way up. But yeah, there's that too. There's been a lot of excitement in dealing with this. Let's see, this is still going on. We got 3.45 million over on the White Dudes for Harris thing, which is awesome. Joel Moraine, what song will you sing when you are removed from the voting rolls? I don't know. That might be a good discussion for later. So, what show would be the best? There was another topic that somebody wanted to talk about at the end of last show, and I don't remember what that topic is. So, if anybody does remember it, if anybody does remember what I wanted to talk about at the end of the next show, remind me and let me know. And I think it was when we were talking about stuff at the end of the chat. It wasn't even during the show. It was at the end of the chat, and I was like, I remember saying there's a bunch of things that I have to rant about this particular issue. Maybe it's copyright issues. I don't know, but I'd be happy to talk about it in the chat. If you can remember what that was at the end of the show, there it is. Oh, we have
There we go. I'm Luke Skywalker, and I'm here to rescue you, Mr. Galloway. You've got it.
Thanks very much. I'll finish where I ended. My name is Scott Galloway. I teach at NYU. I am a man.
All right. Well, it was the very start. I just popped over and saw that Mark Hamill was on, so I wanted to get Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's talking on my show, so there you go. That might be the only way that I get Mark Hamill on my show, is to play anything that he says on the White Dudes for Harris stream, which is almost up to 33.5 million. See, MJ Daniel, legal citizen over 18, you should be automatically registered like a social security number. Sure, that would be great, but conservatives won't go for it because it makes it easier for people to vote. And conservatives don't think that people have the right to vote, even though the words "the right to vote" are stated completely in the Constitution. Several places in the Constitution it says the right to vote, blah blah blah. Like when it talks about age, when it talks about other issues pertaining to gender and voting. The right to vote is mentioned several times. So, let's see, Nick, interesting, Dan, only for election-related stuff should a felon lose the right to vote. I think so. And I would even go so far as to say that the people who are in prison should still be able to cast an absentee ballot, unless their crimes were related to voting in and of itself, and then maybe you lose your voting rights at that point. But one of the problems that people have done is instead of considering the people in prisons to be living at the last place they lived before they were incarcerated, what they do is they basically, for gerrymandering purposes, will consider the people residing at the prison as living at the prison. So and they've had their voting rights removed because they're imprisoned wherever they happen to be, like Florida, let's say. So they'll gerrymander the prisons into these districts to take away voting power from, to people who conservatives will typically want to take voting power away from. So it's just one of the other tactics that they will use for that. Let's scroll back on down. See, John Deff, I live in Ohio too. Thankfully, a very blue part. Few and far between, right? Because they've gerrymandered all the blue together. So that's what they did. That's one of the things that they did in Louisiana before they had a lawsuit and forced Louisiana to add a second Democratic district is because they basically gerrymandered most of the black vote in Louisiana into one winding, terrible district to pack all of the people into that one district so that they're taken out of the other districts to solidify the power. And they'll be like, oh, well, we gave the black people their one big district. No, but that doesn't help because you're taking away the voting power of black people in Louisiana by forcing them all to be in one district. Therefore, you're getting to a point where their vote is worth half of what a vote of the Republicans are in Congress. So, wait, Dan's way behind Trucker John tactics. What am I way behind on? Wait, gerrymandering, what are counties for? Counties are useless. They'll split a county in 2, 3, 4, 7 if it means taking power away from the Democrats. Did I see the Olympics opening ceremony when they did the thing with Dionysus and the Bacchanal and going back to the history of the Olympics and the Greeks? That thing that whatchamacallit took off, that Da Vinci, when he did the painting of the Last Supper, he copied the painting of the Dionysus, ripping other people off or whatever. So that opening ceremony, yeah. Jan Morgan, the only way GQP wins is by cheating, and they know it. Exactly. Jim Jordan is what you get with gerrymandering. Absolutely. I did watch this. I think I did watch Celine Dion singing live. That was neat, especially with her dealing with her vocal cord issues or whatever. And she did kill it. Absolutely. You're right, Eazy-E. See, Jan Morgan, Cambridge Analytics, Mercer's Bannon may have persuaded some of the world briefly, not anymore, and Bannon is drinking his hooch from a toilet bowl. Nice. See, Josh Stein has been peppering the Olympics with ads with Roberts himself saying the horrible things. Appalling. We are so screwed if Mark wins. Absolutely. And and that's the thing, is like, Mark Robinson, North Carolina will be screwed if Mark Robinson wins. But if Mark Robinson wins North Carolina, that means Trump also gets the North Carolina electoral votes, which means it's helping to screw the nation as well. We'll have bigger problems than Mark Robinson if Trump is elected. Not that Mark Robinson isn't a problem. The issue is that if you get enough votes out there to defeat Mark Robinson, you may very well help Vice President Harris win that state as well. One Obama won in 2008. That would alleviate some of the pressure for Vice President Harris to win all the other existing swing states, because I think by adding in Robinson, as the Republicans adding in Mark Robinson, have basically made it so that North Carolina can be added to the number of overall swing states, because it puts it in reach. You also have, again, as I posited, potentially in Florida. You have the whatchamacallit. Hold on, North Carolina. Let's look up the North Carolina polling data first. Polling data in North Carolina, Mark Robinson. Let's see. North Carolina governor, 2024 polls, 538. According to July 22nd and 24th, Redfield's Wilton Strategies, The Telegraph, Josh Stein is beating 38% to 34%. According to public policy polling, Stein is beating Robinson 48 to 42%. The Redfield and Wilton Strategies had 37 to 36 back in July of 16 to 18. So just a week later, Stein moved more ahead and Robinson moved more behind in that. But even though the race is close, it looks like let's see. It looks like Stein is beating Robinson. Now, as it pertains to president elections and the general election in North Carolina, we still currently have Harris. The same Redfield-Witten strategies has Trump +3 versus Harris. That's the poll that had, let me just see, go back to the governor, that had Stein up by 4, but it had less people, I guess, convicted or whatever. I don't know. It's like 38 to 34 versus 48 to 43. So I don't know where the other votes are. Maybe those people are undecided. I don't know. But if Robinson's losing by 4 and Trump's winning by 3, that's kind of a 7-point shift. So you need more people to get out there. But I think we may see those polls tighten once we get to the point where Harris has done more fundraising, when we get to the point that Harris is able to get more information out there, especially as Mark Robinson has his racist words exposed, as you said in chat that they're doing during the Olympics. So hopefully they'll see that. Again, I don't think, I mean, I don't know how good Florida will be, but the polling on the abortion issue, and people getting out to vote. And also, one of the other problems is that the polling that is done often with registered voters and not with new. It doesn't, and will not include new voters. So we have to see how many new people are getting out and registering themselves to vote in North Carolina and in Florida and all these other states that used to not be in play, but maybe could be in play because of things like, abortion bans and Mark Robinson being a bigot. Aaron West, I cannot continue to live in North Carolina if Robinson wins. I don't blame you. Come down to New Orleans. Not that, we have a better governor, but at least we have a better city that's safe. To go to Dave, I have a couch to give away. Any takers? Don't tell JD. Does that have a dolphin print on it? Because that might also, that might also get him excited. One of the things that, oh Jesus, Jeff, hilarious, terrible but hilarious. I mean, no red states are safe, of course, but I mean, at least in New Orleans, you have a very blue island in the red state that fights back against the ridiculousness and the BSery of the Republican-controlled legislature. So it's easy. It's like Ohio with the large cities, Dems, and small towns that always lean conservative. We do have one thing to play, though. I think we have two things to play, because I don't know if I played... I didn't play one thing at the end of last week, which is the, whatchamacallit, I guess I couldn't upload it because... I guess that was part of the problem. I couldn't upload it because of the, the Amber Rose Petrovich's money thing, that I didn't play at the end of last week because we didn't have Blog Talk Radio last week. Is that this one? I don't think it is. I don't know. Oh well. We'll worry about that later, I guess. We won't upload it. But we do have Aaron, too hot in New Orleans. It's not hot. It's not hot in North Carolina. I mean, I want to know about the heat in New Orleans because as a big guy, it's terrible. But anyway, without further ado, though, let us go ahead and play. Before we get to Khalil, we are going to go ahead and play this week's Hypocrite of the Week.
This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Twitter owner and ruiner Elon Musk. According to Twitter policies, you can't share media, including videos that are misleading. Elon then posted a video with Vice President Harris's voice saying things that she never said. Twitter then took down the community notes explaining why his post was against Twitter's own policies. But you know, Musk endorsed Trump, and you can't spell felon without Elon. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio for more talk from the left. That's right.
That's right, folks. You can't spell felon without Elon. I came up with that joke as I was writing Hypocrite of the Week because I needed one more line to fill time, and it just popped into my head. So there you go. You can't spell. I should make like a meme or maybe even a t-shirt with that. You can't spell felon without Elon. So, and that's why he, that's why we support, that's why, you know, I try to do my funny, but again, we can be funny and fight back at the same time. Sometimes we fight back whilst being funny. It's, you know, it's the Jewish in me, I suppose. Anyway, here's Khalil, I believe. How's it going, man? What's going on today?
Nothing much. I heard about what happened with Trump. Did I talk to you about that? What happened with Trump with the the shooting?
What about it?
The shooting. Basically, I was commenting on someone on YouTube. I was saying, you guys, anytime a person fires a fake gun or fake ammo in the movie, they're a hypocrite. But you guys don't want to see it as far as not learning from your situation, and then trying to blame somebody else instead of the fact that they could get a gun. But yet, someone fires a gun in the movie, you know, they're a hypocrite, or they have civilians, non-civilians that guard politicians and actors. They're hypocrites, or they're responsible gun owners. They're hypocrites. But all of a sudden, when something like this happens with Trump, you don't learn from it, and you want to say it's not hypocrisy. So it's always an excuse. And the person replied, "What excuse? What hypocrisy?" And I said, "I'm not going to answer you anymore." Someone on YouTube, but you know, basically, I'm just saying, you know, like I said, like you said, you know, they don't learn from that stuff. They
right.
just want to place blame somewhere else. Just like with people blaming the people that are hardcore anti-gun control people that were blaming Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was not saying go out and do that. And then Black Lives Matter is not a gun lobby. So it's like they're placing the blame somewhere else on purpose. And that's another reason why I don't like people deflecting when I'm talking about stuff like that. Because even like there was a situation in L.A. where an officers were shot, and they only brought up gun control. They never brought up how to equally arm these officers. They brought up how it's a conspiracy to take away guns, or it's proof that gun control doesn't work. You know, to me, that's just very, not only is it deflecting, but it's also dangerous to do that. Because if people are not consistent on people's safety when it comes to guns, then what that does is that just allows people to continue to do whatever they want, be wishy-washy whenever they want.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, and they're always going to deflect because one of the things that conservatives love to do, or many conservatives love to do in an argument, is if you get them on a point, they immediately pivot or direct the conversation to something else. If they can't handle that, they won't say, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe they won't say, maybe I have to research it more. They'll just pivot it to, but what about Vice President Harris? What about this? What about that? They'll always flip it around to something else because they can't handle when their arguments fall apart, especially when it comes to issues like gun control and having better, things like universal background checks that Republicans fight, even though the media will say, 80% of people support background checks. Why won't they pass the laws about background checks? Well, the reason is because there's a good chunk of the people who claim to support background checks who won't make that their issue. They won't be like, okay, I'm not going to vote for anybody who doesn't support background checks. They don't put their vote where their mouth is. They don't put their money where their mouth is. They'll say things like, I support... You have a bunch of people in this country who don't agree with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but enough of those people are not going to sit there and be like, well, I might be a Republican, but I'm not going to vote for any person who's going to, restrict abortion rights. Because that's just what they do.
About that. when people pivot like
Hold
that,
on a
I'm
second.
talking
Chad
to
is
my ear,
leaving. I
if
want
I'm
to
on-
thank Chad for his gifting of 5 memberships in the chat. Appreciate you, Chad, very much for doing that. Go back to you, Khalil.
I'm sorry. When people pivot like that and I'm on the phone, I hang up on them, especially when it's on gun control. Or if people do that and I'm talking to them, I just stop talking to them. I'm not going to play that game. You
Right.
know, if you pivot on something like that where people are not being fair, anything where someone's not being fair, but especially on something that's dangerous like that, then I don't have any use for you. You know, because like you said, it just allowed people to be like NRA and Larry Pratt. Because like if someone says something like, you know, I would ban liberals from having guns, but I wouldn't ban a felon from having a gun, then that's not something people should just be pivoting away from. Like I said, you know, when people do that, I have no use for them, and I just hang up on them, you know. Or if they get defensive with me when I tell them, I get kind of nasty, you know.
Right.
Because it's just, I don't like that, you know. Like I said, certain things people pivot away from, I don't really have as much of a problem, but as far as people being wishy-washy or people playing games with people's safety, I can handle someone pivoting away from what I'm talking about.
Right.
Or what the video or movie's about. Like, I even tell people when they see videos like this and they bring that up, I tell them that's not the point of this video.
Exactly,
So
but
that's
they
what
don't care. They don't care about their hypocrisy. They don't care about what was it? One of the things I saw about guns recently is that they've had several of the shooting events in the Olympics already, because there are summer shooting events, and the Americans have not once medaled in any of these Olympic events pertaining to guns, and perhaps that the entire world is befuddled at the idea that Americans can't win a medal when it comes to shooting. My answer to that is that, well, what are they shooting at? They're shooting at targets. That's not going to get Americans excited about it, unless the targets were of, you know, either black people or children. Then that's something that maybe the American gun culture can get behind, because they seem to have no problem with black people getting shot and or with children getting shot, because they refuse to do anything about that. So maybe if there was Olympic sport in police, you know, with police shooting black people or with children getting shot, we would get the gold medal 5 times over. We would set world records when it comes to that. But if it comes to this simple plain target shooting, no, the American culture is not interested in all that, because in reality, it's not about. They actually probably have no feelings, because they're not going to cry about the children that are dead. Because a lot of the times these children come from areas that are more left anyway, and they're not going to cry about the black people who are dead, because 90% of the black people are dead. So they don't want to do anything. Even when Trump gets shot at, they're still going to be like, well, you know, he wasn't really. Maybe if he actually would have gotten a more mortal wound or injury, I'm not suggesting that he should have, but maybe if he did, they would have been maybe a little more likely to support something. But in reality, no, they would have just gotten him angry. Then they would have been like, we need a civil war, man, or something like that. So I don't know. But people wondering why Americans can't do well in shooting events in Olympics, my answer is because of what you're shooting at or who you're not shooting at. Is that's probably why Americans have not medaled in the Olympics at this point. So anyway, anything else to throw in, Khalil, before we move on?
I was wondering, do you know, I'm planning on going to Williamsburg. You know that place? Williamsburg, Virginia?
Yeah. Colonial Williamsburg, yes.
Yeah, they have a college that's called William and Mary, and they're doing a lot of jackhammering, tearing down old buildings and rebuilding stuff. And the hotel, let's say, is 10 miles away from William and Mary. And I was just wondering if like the decibel, if I go outside in Williamsburg, if I could hear the construction noise outside the hotel.
No, I don't know that. I wouldn't have an answer on that one. So.
Oh, okay.
But I hope you have a good time. Are you going to like Busch Gardens, or are you going to somewhere else?
Probably somewhere else.
Okay, because I think there is a Busch Gardens by Williamsburg, if I'm remembering correctly, being that I'm from Baltimore. So I've been there once or twice, so it happens. That, King's Dominion, etc. So
Have a good night.
All right, thank you so much. You as well. Thank you, Khalil. Appreciate you. As always, thank you, Khalil, for calling into the show. Appreciate you. Anybody else wants to call in before we end? I mean, it is 9:30 already, my time. We've been going for an hour and a half. It doesn't feel like it. I guess my throat's better. 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. Jeff, in college I had principles of hunting and fishing. We had a shooting range, and they asked me if I joined the shooting team. Well, did you? I was in Boy Scout camp, and I freaked my mom out, it's her 70th birthday today, so we've already wished her a happy birthday. But I freaked my mom out because when I was finally old enough to be able to shoot at the shooting range at Boy Scout camp, I got a 49 out of 50 on my first try. And I don't think she expected me to be that good at firing a gun, firing a rifle, so to speak. But I did. I was able to do it. I got it done pretty well, pretty good aim. So there you go. I remember when I pissed off one of my own friends who had just bought a rifle, and he had put this little dot like on the target and put it all the way down the range, and he shot it, and he got like the bottom edge of it, and he was all proud of himself. And then I was like, well, give me a shot. And I lined it up, and he knew that I was more leftist liberal than him at this point anyway, and I was still in high school, so it is as politically active as I was. But I line up the shot, go squeeze off the round. I'm looking through the sight, and I'm like, wait a second. I pulled it all the way back. I nailed that thing right in dead center. It was great. He was mad, and I was great. I was very happy. I was very amused. So now, Robin, whose name you share with my mom, I'm not necessarily, I mean, we there's issues there. So, but anyway, I don't want to go too much into that. I'm upset at how the relationship between me and my mom has gone a little south since we evacuated her place during Hurricane Ida. I don't know how to fix the situation. It's something that's, it bothers me that it can't get fixed. But, as good old Donald says,
it is what it is.
Thank you. Easy Network, I think conservatives would find out the hard way that liberals are not anti-Second Amendment. And I think what happens is you move far enough to the left, you get your guns back. Because there are people on the left who understand that, we need to protect ourselves from these loons. So, I appreciate it, Robin. Thank you. Jen was supposed to talk to Dan about copyright laws. They are very vague. Benino about playing songs and not getting strikes. Was it copyright laws? And I think that's what we were talking about, copyright laws and copyright strikes. I think we were. We'll get to that towards the end. We'll get to that a little bit. I got 3 strikes right at the gate. I should have had 4, but Sinead O'Connor didn't get one. It's amusing when that happens. We'll talk about that in a second. Thank you for confirming that's what we were wanting to talk about. Let's see. Let's kind of scroll back up. Oh no, Alarage's air conditioner is broken, has to be replaced. Hopefully it gets fixed. So the gun issue is only about military issues, semi and fully automatic rifles. Nobody complained about the shotgun. Maybe just the one time with the sawed-off. I mean, there's that too. And you had Joe Biden, who, when they were talking, or somebody was talking about Democrats take away guns. Biden was like, I don't think you should be able to not defend yourself. You should be able to get a shotgun. You should be able to own. I have no problem with you having a shotgun. The problem is the semi-automatics, especially when the semi-automatic rifles can be modded with, the bump stocks to turn them into functionally automatic rifles, even though the Supreme Court didn't want to view it as such. So, Gen X George, I'm too stoned tonight. Okay, well, we can talk about it Wednesday if you're less stoned on Wednesday. Let's see, Robert Dan, you need some fresh ocean breeze in your lung. The real problem is getting fresh ocean breeze in my lungs is what caused me to get, because I was on the cruise and I got COVID on the cruise and I was over plenty of fresh water. I don't know if it was ocean waters, I mean, I was in the, yeah, probably the ocean water because we were in the Atlantic, I guess, Bahamas, Key West. So yeah, I did have the fresh ocean water that didn't help me that didn't get me prevented. Of course, I'll be in Orlando next week, so that'll be I'll be split right down the middle of Florida, halfway between the Gulf and the ocean. So yeah, I touched COVID. I know. My thing is, I've wondered from I don't know if I brought this up last show or not. Maybe I did, but I think I did, and I looked up a little bit, and I might be right in that it's possible that my going overboard on karaoke and straining my voice at karaoke may have made my throat more susceptible to disease, and as such, doing karaoke may have made it more possible for me to get COVID. The other side of the coin is that I also didn't have like antibacterial gel with me, and I maybe should be, if I do karaoke on a cruise ship, I should be wiping my hands off every time I touch the mic. So there's that too. Stop touching COVID. I can't help it. I can't know. What's up, Later Holmes? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. If you've not subscribed, please remember to do so. Like the video, share it with your friends, share other videos with your friends, etc. Karaoke makes you more susceptible to singing more, and that's the problem, is that I sang more, and as I sung and sung and sung, I kind of, janked up my vocal cords or whatever, because I was, at the end of the week, I was straining to hit some of the notes, and then, then I got sick. So I don't know if it was me touching the mic too many times without antibacterial gel that helped that happen, or if it was me, singing and making my throat weaker, abrased or whatever, if the laryngitis made it more likely for me to be susceptible to catching something, or maybe it's some column A and some column B, or maybe it's something else. I don't know. Easy. Did you watch Deadpool and Wolverine? Yes, I made sure to watch it the day it came out, because I did not want to get spoiled. And no spoilers in chat. You need to wait at least a good 2 weeks before you spoil anything about Deadpool versus Wolverine. But it was amazing, and everybody should watch it if you like Marvel comics, or if you just like, lots of cursing. Later Holmes. Any Barry Manilow fans gather here today? I write the songs that make the world go round or whatever, even though he didn't write that song. Yeah, you definitely need to watch it. I watched it at the with a 3D as well, so I got the nice 3D fight sound effects or whatever. So, Benny Loco, can't smile without you. So yeah, I'm familiar with Barry Manilow. I'm not gonna say I'm a huge fan of his, but I mean, I like some of his songs. So, see, Jan Morgan, be careful of RSV or respiratory syncytial virus. Both myself and a friend just got it. She thought she was gonna die. I mean, for me, it felt like I was run over by a truck for a few days, but then I tested negative on the Sunday. So it was better more quickly. Maybe that's because I'm vaccinated, so it helped that way. But I couldn't get the drugs to get the medicine that I needed to help with the antivirals, because they were completely out, which sucked. So we watched it at AMC, liked it in 3D, but wanted an IMAX. They had IMAX 3D and they had IMAX regular, but I did the Prime at AMC or whatever. I did that one is where I watched it at. So, let's see, Jan Morgan, both tested negative for Corona. She got the RSV booster. I couldn't afford for the $200 for a vaccine. Oof, $200 for a vaccine. That's terrible. It should be better. Yeah, Deadpool is a superhero. Yes, he is. He's very super. And oh my god, all the fan service in that movie was great. Deadpool sounds like a dangerous place to swim. Aaron, do you need to watch the previous Deadpool movie? I would. I mean, I did bring my kids to it. I didn't feel as bad of a parent when I saw another kid that was younger than my youngest who was also there at the movies. I would watch previous Deadpool movies, but there's also a plethora of other movies that you might want to watch to get every single reference possible. Like, you have characters from previous Deadpool movies in this one, but that's been in the previews or whatever. You have other things from other stories, like, I think they do show some of the people that were used from Loki, or some of the things that were in Loki. I mean, you had the TVA that was revealed in the previews, so I don't feel like that's spoiling anything. But you had various other... I definitely would not go look at the IMDb page. If you want to avoid being spoiled on certain characters and or actors showing up in the movie. So Deadpool is... I mean, he's not kid-friendly, but Disney made it so that some of the things that were in Deadpool 1 and 2 could not be shown in Deadpool 3. So because of Disney, and they even touch on that in the movie as well, because Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. One of the reasons I love the Deadpool character is for the fact that Deadpool often will break the fourth wall, and talk directly to you as an audience member. But yeah, there was a kid that was much younger than Henry at the movies, and I was like, okay, good. I don't feel as bad for bringing it, but I don't think Henry would have forgiven me. And Henry was like, that was the best movie I've seen this year. So, Disney they let Ryan Reynolds go, and they, there was a bunch of things. I think with one of the previous Deadpool movies, even before it was owned by Disney, I think Ryan Reynolds I think this was Deadpool. I think they was talking about Deadpool about this, where they said that he wanted to do so much stuff, so that he actually asked for extra stuff that he knew he was not going to be able to get away with, so that when he was like, okay, well, I'll give these things up if you let me do X, Y, and Z, and then they let him have half of that stuff as well, and he was like, wow. So... I don't know, there's some things in that movie, Jan, that were not predictable at all, especially some of the cameos. I was like, what? It's crazy. But, like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to even give away what other movies you should see. I mean, maybe seeing Deadpool 1 and 2 would be good. I think they're both on HBO at the moment, or on demand or whatever. Seeing both of the Deadpools will help. But there are so many other things where you should watch this and this and this and this and this. And if I say what things you should watch, it might give away some of the spoilers. So I don't want to say what things you should watch, other than, maybe it might be good to watch the first two Deadpools just to whatever. I mean, you probably should... Anything that Wolverine has been in, you might want to watch as well. I guess I would put it that way, because you have Wolverine in the movie, so Wolverine. So there you go. So I assume he was not allowed to insult the mouse. Was about it. Twisters was very good as well. I did not see Twisters. My family did go see Twisters earlier that week as well. So... Anyway, what is it? We got... Did we play anything else? Let's crack this thing open one more time just to see. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you're not going to be able to hear this, but I don't think that's the... Or is that it? Maybe this is it. Let's see. Let's open this up and see. Yeah, I think this is the audio from Amber. Let's so you won't be able to hear this on Blog Talk Radio, but it'll be played on YouTube. So here's Amber Petrovich's most recent thing that she uploaded. It was from like 2 weeks ago, but I didn't have the show that 2 weeks ago, so I was going to play it Wednesday, and then I didn't play it Wednesday because I couldn't do Blog Talk Radio. So we're just going to do it just streaming from my computer. So if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, just go to liberaldanradio.com and you'll be able to hear it. So here we go.
This is Amber Petrovich with your Money Minute. It was a pretty rough day in the stock market. Why? I'll tell you. This year, the S&P hit 38 new all-time highs. Historically, that's a lot of highs. Mid-July also historically marks the end of a bullish period for investors, especially as liquidity tends to be lower, with many people traveling in late summer. Andrew Rocco from Zacks pointed out the NASDAQ historically rallies until mid-July, consolidates until late October, and then rallies into year-end. So far, the NASDAQ is following that pattern. So you have a late summer lull plus an overextended rally thanks to excessive AI hype from the past year and a half, plus chip makers getting crushed from potential trade restrictions. Can upcoming earnings help? The bar is ultra high for mega-cap tech stocks, with the top 5 stocks in the S&P accounting for almost half its gains. A lot of people seem to think the upcoming elections could help the market rally, but according to my former employer, Goldman Sachs, the market has already priced in a Trump win. So what do? Be patient. According to institutional analysts, new leaders haven't formed yet, but there's rotation into small caps and cyclicals. Cyclicals meaning discretionary spending items like travel, hotels, restaurants, automobiles, and new construction.
All right, well, there you go. That was, of course, Amber Petrovich's Your Money Minute. If you don't, of course, you should always take any economic device with whatever grains of salt, and make any decisions based on speaking to your personal financial analyst or other expert to deal with your specific information. So, but we always like to give Amber some time on the show, and that was the one that I was supposed to play last week but couldn't because it couldn't get uploaded. So there you go. See, can you imagine the movies that would be made about this time? It would be crazy. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like people looking back, if assuming we have a country in 20, 30 years and assuming that we don't get Gilead or Project 2025 or whatever, assuming we don't get that, I'm sure the movies that'll be made about the idiocy that we've suffered it in or with because of Trump and his MAGA movement are going to create lots and lots and lots of movies. So, anyway. One thing about Project 2025 that I do want to bring up, because a friend of mine was asking about it. He posted the information about like how Project 2025 will end overtime, or as we know it at least. Because and he was trying to figure out what the problem was when it came to Project 2025 and overtime, because the way it's worded, he didn't necessarily see the overall problem, and I was happy to help. So with this particular issue of Project 2025 and overtime, what they want to do is they want, right now, as it is now, if you work more than 40 hours a week in an hourly position, like 41, 42 hours, you have to get paid time and a half for the extra time that you work overtime. If you're salaried and not hourly, that's different. Salaried employees can be asked to work longer hours and not be given that time, but whatever. So you go to what the Project 2025 site wants, and they talk about they want to give the option to either allow employers and employees to be able to figure out, instead of doing it 40 hours, more than 40 hours gives you time and a half for any additional hour in a 1 work week. They want to make it so that, have it be done on a bi-weekly or a monthly thing. So, for example, they can say, okay, let's do it every 2 weeks. So if you work more than 80 hours every 2 weeks, you can you'll get time and a half on anything above those 80 in those 2 weeks. But if even worse, if it's done over a month, if you do 160 hours in, like 2 weeks or even in 1 week, and then it's like, okay, well, we're not gonna work you anymore the rest of the month. You can have off the rest of the 3 weeks. They make it sound like it's a big, favor that they're doing for labor, because that's what big corporations love to do, and big corporations are backing, this Project 2025 BS, especially this particular thing about the changing of the overtime rules, because it would be different if you had equal power between the employees and the employer would be like, hey, can you do me a favor, and I'll let you work 5 hours extra this week if you don't, but then next week you can come in for 5 hours less. That's not. Or if you as an employee could be like, you know what, I want to take off next week, so let me go ahead and put in 80 hours this week, or let me put 20 hours a week extra over the course of these 2 weeks so I can have my full salary but still go on my vacation or whatever. Because that's not going to happen. Employers are not going to be like, oh, sure, you can work 60 hours this week. That's fine. Whatever. No, they're not going to do that at all. What the end result of this law is that if you work 80 hours in a week, your employer can basically be like, you know what, I'm going to force you to work 80 hours in this week because we need you to come in and work those 80 hours this week. And that's probably not in a dull, boring week. It's probably going to be like, a week where they have like Black Friday sales or other big events where they need you to come in and you need to work overtime, lots and lots of time over in this particular weeks or where it's busy. And then they'll be like, okay, well, we don't need you to work the next week, so that's fine. We're going to put your 80 hours in the 1 week. And the problem is that if you did that under these laws and said, okay, you're going to work 80 hours this week and nothing the next week, under current laws, anything over 40, you'd get paid time and a half for. So you're getting additional 40 plus you get some time and a half, so you get additional 20 hours. So 80 hours of work in a week under current laws would have you get paid 100 hours worth of pay. But under the proposed rules in Project 2025, guess what? You only get paid 80. But again, you won't be able to tell your boss, I can't do 80 hours this week because of reasons, and then have them be okay. The bosses will be like, well, you either are working 80 hours this week or we're going to fire you. That's one of the problems with this proposal that's in Project 2025. And again, I don't have to tell anybody why Project 2025 is bad, but I will say that this is one of the reasons why it's bad, is because they're going to be taking worker protections, labor protections that we fought for to make it so that employers can't abuse the hell out of their employees. And I guarantee you Donald Trump will be like, that sounds wonderful. So, Easy E Network. I'm okay with more companies going to 410s. And 410s is fine. 410s doesn't cause overtime, but many employees would probably be happy doing 410s instead of 5/8s. But no, it's not 120, it's 100 because the time and a half is only on the additional 40. So you get paid 40 hours for your regular work, because with the way overtime works now, if I work 80 hours, if I'm forced as an hourly employee to work 80 hours in a week, I get paid my 40 hours, and then I get paid time and a half for the extra 40 hours that I work. So it's 60 hours in addition that I get paid for on top of the 40 regular hours. So I get 100 total hours worth of pay instead of 80 hours worth of pay. If you do it as they would change the rules, if they change the rules and make it so that it's based on 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks, they could force me to work 80 hours in a week, and I'd only get paid the 80 hours. So, see, Bill was on 28, off 28 in Africa, but that was for oil and gas. Well, yeah, that's also a different thing altogether. But I don't know, was he salary or hourly at that point? So, let's see, Marie, my voter ID is free with registration in New York. And that's good. I mean, again, voter ID is free with, it's not necessarily free with registration in Louisiana, but if you register to vote and you don't have an ID, like you don't have a driver's license, you can at that point get a free voter ID card and say, there you go. So, let's see, 410s are great until crunch time, 6 to 12 sucks. Yeah. Exactly. His salary was $1,000 per day. That's nice. But yeah, when you're working, I used to know somebody working on rigs who would do like 3 on and 1 off. I think it would be 3 weeks on and 1 week off, and the weeks on or whatever would be like, I think he was a chef in on one of the oil rigs, so he would work. He basically worked 12-hour shifts every day, and then he shared a room with the other chef who worked the other 12-hour shift. So he would work 12 hours in that one day, and then have the rest. His whole room would be for himself, because he never saw his roommate, because when he was working, the roommate was in the room. When his roommate was working, he was in the room. So they never had to worry about actually sharing a room, just sharing, I guess, personal items, I guess, whatever would be in the room. But he basically had a room to himself for the times where he didn't sleep. But also, I'm sure, working as a chef, I don't know how much time working those 12 hours, he had to actually work all 12 hours, just had to be there available in the kitchen. So, yeah, oil and gas, they also sleep some of that time, so you just call the whole time in and you get your regular work, you get done, you get the rest of the time off. Yeah, but I mean, as I was saying with my friend, he worked 12 hours a day. The other half of the day, he wouldn't be working, he would just still be on the rig. So, what's up, Kevin Anderson? Good to see you. But yeah, so... And I think there are some exceptions too, where there are some hourly employees who also don't get time and a half, because they're considered exempt under the Labor Standards Act or whatever. But this would just take it and make it so that anybody could be, like, you could be working at a restaurant, and they specifically mention low wage workers in this, and basically say, oh, it'll be a benefit for them. So if they want to work extra, why should you stop them from being able to work extra? That's usually the line that these conservative types will give. Why these regulations are hurting, small, laborers who they might want to work, they might want to do these things. Why are you stopping them from doing these things if they want to do it? That's not the problem. The problem is that where the power lies, it rests in the employer-employee relationship, especially when it comes to jobs where you have lots of possible replacements. If it's, jobs that don't require degrees, jobs like working at your Walmart, either working, filling, stocking areas or whatever. Like, for example, let's take Christmas time, for example. Let's say
90 seconds.
Why is it 90 seconds? I have it set up to go 180 minutes. It's so stupid. Anyway, so let's say you have the week before Christmas. And let's say there's a big they expect a big rush on the week before Christmas. So they could tell your employees, look, you're going to work the week before Christmas. You're going to work many hours, 80 hours that week, to help with stocking things and help, filling the shelves and and working checkout or whatever it is that we need you to do.
60 seconds.
For those hours that you're going to have to work prior to, Christmas and whatever. And then we'll give you off the week between, New Year's, but you're not working a regular workload in those 80 hours. You're working a workload that's like probably one of your busiest weeks. So they're going to have to pay, and then they're not going to have to pay you time and a half? No, it's BS. It's one of the many things in Project 2025 that's BS. Of course, when I come back from Florida, assuming I don't pick up any other sickness from Florida, We will start doing more either shows and or individual videos, like looking at Project 2025, specifically comparing them to the things Donald Trump wants to do. And we're going to make sure that we get to, see clearly why Project 2025 is problematic, and why Donald Trump is lying when he says what his plans are have nothing to do with Project 2025. Yes, Robin, Disney World in Orlando. Yes, we'll be in Orlando all week at Disney World. So, if I know any nerds, by the way, if I know any nerds who happen to be going to Gen Con or PAX East or any other upcoming big conventions, there's something that I might want for you. Email me liberaldanradio@gmail.com, and let me know if you're going to be at Gen Con or PAX East or I forget what the other one's called. But yeah, Robin, problematic. I'm being generous. So yeah, Florida is the hub of sickness. They have measles outbreaks now. Yeah, but I also have my annual pass that I still have to use, and well, we're gonna have to, most of it, a lot of the week I still have to work. So it's gonna be me dropping the family off at the parks and then going back to where we're staying and then working for at least a good 4, 5, 6 hours until until I go back up and meet with the family. Probably 8 hours of work, trying to get the work done. But I don't have enough vacation time to take off a full week to be able to do Disney, because my vacation time is already used up except for one day. I'll be taking off the Friday. But anyway, we'll see. Stay away from karaoke while you're gone to test the COVID from the Mike theory. Well, I'm not going on a cruise, and I don't know of any place in Disney World that does karaoke, so we won't be doing any karaoke in that coming week or whatever. Don't throw your family in a measles pit. Oh, the family, I mean, we all have our vaccinations. We make sure that our kids, that's one of the things that you can be safe of. The problem with measles is that people who don't get the vaccines are putting other people's unvaccinated kids at risk. Fortunately, my kids all have the MMR vaccine. So, because we're not conspiracy theorists. We're not horrible people who just, allow the crazy hype to make us not listen to, experts in their fields. So, I triggered your Siri. How did I trigger your Siri? What did I say? That's funny. I once triggered my Siri one time. Or no, it wasn't Siri. It was Alexa. I triggered Alexa by saying, I said, I like salt. And Alexa heard I like salt and thought that was Alexa, which was funny. So, Kelly, go to see Chaka Khan. Nice. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan. Oh, I've been on Epcot many times since '82. So, Epcot's amazing. I mean, all the different countries that they have. The new Guardians of the Galaxy ride is fun. Love Test Track. We're trying to get reservations for this one restaurant, but we can't seem to be able to find it, even though there are lots of reservations for many other places that are open. But we're going to have to... I think I have the general manager's contact information, and hopefully if they're still working there, we'll be able to pull in a reservation for that particular place as well. So we'll see. So Diane also wants me to tell everyone of you about their show because they're building up support. Yes, Benny and Diane's show, little show with Benny and Diane. 2 American women doing an awesome job with what they can. Anyway, Easy E. I would like to see Shakira to see if those hips don't lie. I would love to go to Disney World. It's on my bucket list. And one of the most things about Disney World that I've talked about on my Budgeteers channel, which I haven't really dealt with much, is that one of the best things to do is getting a Target Red Card and getting all of your Disney gift cards at Target using your Red Card, so you save 5% off your entire vacation. And then, and you could use that card to buy park tickets, to buy, to pay for your resort if you're staying on grounds. You can use it to buy souvenirs and food, and you're basically saving $5 off of everything. and then we like to stack the discounts on top of each other. So if we, if we have an annual pass discount for buying, stuff, we'll be able to save money on that too. So it's just ways that pile on savings on top of each other. So, Trucker John on his way to see Deadpool Wolverine now. You are going to enjoy it. I hope. I enjoyed it a lot. So, but anyway, I do think since it's 2 hours in, I don't want to risk putting my vocal cords too much at risk. And I've been exhausted recently, so I do want to get to sleep at a reasonable hour today. So we're going to go ahead and end of the show today. But this is the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. I'll be live tomorrow on nerdydan.com, on Twitch, twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. If you want to join us there, we can talk about anything you want to talk about whilst I'm playing some games. Otherwise, I will be here Wednesday, regular time, 8 p.m. Central, for more Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Again, please remember to like the video, subscribe, share. Thank you to all of the people who supported the show today. We've got Trucker John, completed membership, Chad gifted 5, Robin gifted 1, Benny gifted 5, Benny with a couple of super stickers, Nick gifted 1, and Surrender Monkey as well. Until next time, again, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. It might take me a few seconds to bring up this audio as well. So just give me a few seconds as we're bringing up the audio. I forgot to open the window to be able to launch the outro music much more easily, so we'll get there in a second. But just to make sure that currently the Dudes for Harris thing is still going on, and they've raised almost $3.7 million, so that's amazing. Anyway, till next time, have a good one. Peace. As we're waiting for this thing to load, because my laptop sucks. And I didn't prepare it earlier, because, I was stupid. Come on. Let's get this open and playing. There you go. Should be playing soon. Why is this taking so long? My computer sucks. Come on. There we go. Peace.